Cut. Okay. Hi. This is curious. I'm gonna take a break from my freaking politically incorrect videos for a little bit. Oh, because believe me, I got a paper on something, and it was like, it was a college, one of those mini little freaking college ad freaking catalogs that you get every once in a while. I don't want to go into it. I'll go into that later. But I was watching Eagle Eye, 1975, I think so, and he got into it about climate change. It was like a 15-minute video, and I only watched a minute of it. I should have watched it all, but I just couldn't watch it all. And it was like, and right off he hit that climate change is something that, well, it isn't real. And it's like, well, wait a minute, because he said that, freaking, climate is an environment, and when it's cold, oh no, that's not climate change. But when it's warm, oh yeah, there it is. Climate problems, global warming. And it's like, wait a minute, how many freaking conservatives, especially economic conservatives, because this is really an issue about ownership and business. Let's be honest. It's about property and who owns what and how communal you are and really how much the government owns of you, or at least your country. And so therefore, you went on about that, and it's like, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense, because that's not what's happening. Oh, I mean, it is an issue about freaking a type of ownership, what can be determined and what can't be determined. Like, what's quantifiable? That's it. What's quantifiable? How, so I get this right. Labor plus material equals ownership. If there's a forest and you put your effort into making that a small cabin community, then if you bought the land, you own all that. But now, someone like an environmentalist might say, well, you don't really own that when you're displacing so much of the ecology, of the ecosphere, of the environment. Because the environment isn't just atmosphere, but it's the ecology. It's the econet. And it's like, that's very much part of it too. So, you have to wonder, when people don't understand that it's not just a matter of global warming, but it's also a matter of how the environment affects the ecology. And when that happens, what also happens is that it disrupts the weather, or at least the weather that we know and count on. Like, it might be hot in Paris, but it'll be freezing in Madrid or South America. And that will disrupt the weather patterns that we have that are connected by jet streams and ocean currents and all these other global things that are part of the ecosphere. And that's to do with greenhouse gases and pollution, which inhibits the ability of the planet to actually adjust and balance itself from our influences. The waste we make hinders the planet to absorb and rebalance the impact we make. And that's a reality. Now, how much of a reality is very hard to say, because you can't really objectify or quantify, these things in a fluid and flexed system such as weather, because it's all entropy and chaos. Not just craziness, but chaos as in it is random and non-determinable. In the 1950s, they tried to establish weather patterns and using predictive models, and what they discovered was that they could run a simulation and it would work right the first time, but then they tried the same simulation and it would have a different variable result. Not so bad as freaking a duck flapping its wings in China, makes a typhoon in Florida, because there's effects of cancellation too. But ultimately, along more general lines, that is part of the equation. And so, I don't think conservatives, who are mostly economic conservatives, and do not understand this because they see economics as something that is only quantifiable. To a libertarian, an economic conservative libertarian, it makes no sense of the value of a duck pond. There's only the water, the trees, and animals. It doesn't have a quantifiable value because it's non-determinable. And even its esoteric value, it's like putting a value on something esoteric or something pretty or beautiful, like a poem or ducks playing in a pond. It's value beyond its value for tourism or something like that. Even it's valueless to people, and it's still valuable beyond even its environmental concern. Its impact on other environments that impact people. There's two sets of values. The value of itself, in itself, which is just a thing, and the value that it impacts the environment. Part of the Ecosphere. So, I don't think conservatives can understand the idea of global warming or climate change because, well, they do understand some of it, they just don't respect it because they see it as ideology. And in some ways it is ideology. People who believe that there is a value but can't quantify that value, but believe just because you can't quantify that value doesn't mean it's valueless. That's the point. But how do you quantify something that is, well, how do you measure something that's unquantifiable? And yet, even though we can't measure it because of chaos and entropy, we can know that it has very real consequences. But what consequences are those? And I think that's the dilemma of the issue of climate change, because it's really impacting upon industry and oil, and what those things are since we have a society that uses mechanical oil to make mechanical power energy into electricity and things like that, ultimately it comes back to oil. Even if you use renewables or hydropower or nuclear power or geothermal or anything like that, or bio-waste, it all comes back to oil as a peak power source because it's the most condensable and energy condensable. So that's what everything runs on. And that's things that not only affect the economy, but people's lives because we're dependent upon it. You know, if a man wants to keep his house and have health care for his children and get back and forth to work, you know, the more expensive things are, the harder it is, and the more people are pushed into poverty. And don't even get started about automation and technological unemployment that's coming. Whew, wow. You know? So, that's, man, the more you impact businesses' ability to not share the wealth, so to speak, or, you know, let's be honest, their elitism and globalism to frigging stratify the wealth, which is a similar but somewhat separate issue, because it's not so much impacting the money, but sharing the money. So that's tomato and tomato, so to speak, because, you know, trickle down theory doesn't trickle down. But do you want to pay $12 a freaking pound for freaking steak? That's a point too. And that's unconscionable for the public. So that's an issue that they don't talk about with climate change, because it's an untenable situation. Political instability will occur if grocery prices went like times 10, you know, what they are now. People would be rioting in the streets. And that's the real issue of what's going on with our society. That's why climate change is just one aspect of our growing oil problems and our energy problems and our growing populations. And it's really a dance with the devil, going round and round. And what we have to do is figure it out as a whole. But yeah, climate change is real. And it's real even though it does impact things on both sides of the partisan line. At least that's what I think.